Aravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the morning Bhagavatam class. So today we are going to recite the words from Canto 3, Chapter 19, the killing of the demon Hiranyaksha, and text 30. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 30. Deva Uvacha. Namo Namaste Kila Yajna Tantave. Sitau Grihita Mala Sattva Murtaye. Disyahatoyam Jagatam Aruntudas. Tvatpada Bhaktya Vayamisha Nivruta. Namo Namaste Kila Yajna Tantave. Stitau Grihita Mala Sattva Murtaye. Disyahatoyam Jagatam Aruntudas. Tvatpada Bhaktya Vayam Isha Nivruta. Namo Namaste Kila Yajna Tantave. Sitau Grihita Mala Sattva Murtaye. Distyahatoyam Jagatam Aruntudas. Tvatpada Bhaktya Vayamisha Nivruta. Prabhuji. Namo Sita Grihita Mala Sattva. Disyahatoyam Jagatam Aruntudas. Tvatvada Bhaktya Deva Uchu. Namo Namaste Kila Yajna Tantave. Grihita Grihita Mala Sattva Murtaye. Nistyahatoyam Jagatam Hasundutas. Tvatvada Bhaktya Vayamisha Nivruta. Deva Uchu. Namo Namaste Kila Yajna Tantave. Sitau Grihita Mala Sattva Murtaye. Disyahatoyam Jagatam Aruntudas. Tvatpada bhaktya vayamisha nivruta. Mataji. Deva Vuchu. Namo namaste kilaya jnatantave. Stitau grihita malasattva murtaye. Disyahato yam jagatam. Tvatpada bhaktya vayamisha nivruta. Word to word translation. Deva, the demigods. Uchu, said. Nama, obeisances. Nama, obeisances. Stay, unto you. Akila yajna tantave, the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Sthitau, for the purpose of maintaining. Grihita, assumed. Amala, pure. Sattva, goodness. Murtaye, form. Distya, fortunately. Hata, slain. Ayam, this. Jagatam, to the worlds. Aruntuda, causing torment. Tvatpada, to your feet. Bhaktya, with devotion. Vayam, we. Isha, O Lord. Nivrutta, have attained happiness. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The demigod addressed the Lord, all obeisances unto you. You are the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and you have assumed the form of a boar in pure goodness for the purpose of maintaining the world. Fortunately for us, this demon who was a torment to the world has been slain by you, and we too, O Lord, are now at ease in devotion to your lotus feet. Let me read purport. The material world consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. But the spiritual world is pure goodness. It is said here that the form of the Lord is pure goodness, which means that it is not material. In the material world, there is no pure goodness. In Bhagavatam, the stage of pure goodness is called Sattvam Vishuddham. Vishuddham means pure. In pure goodness, there is no contamination by the two inferior qualities, namely passion and ignorance. The form of the boar, therefore, in which the Lord appeared is nothing of the material world. There are many other forms of the Lord, but none of them belong to the material qualities. Such forms are non-different from Vishnu form, and Vishnu is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Then the sacrifices which are recommended in Vedas are meant to please Supreme Personality of Godhead. In ignorance only, people try to satisfy many other agents, but the real purpose of life is to satisfy the Supreme Lord Vishnu. All sacrifices are meant to please Supreme Lord. The living entities who know this perfectly well are called demigods, godly or almost God. Since the living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, it is his duty to serve the Lord and please him. The demigods are all attached to personality of God, and for their pleasure, the demon who was source of trouble to the world was killed. Purified life is meant to please the Lord, and all sacrifices performed in the purified life are called Krishna consciousness. So this is Krishna consciousness is developed by devotional service as clearly mentioned here. Let's raise Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sya Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we have been reading that chapter from Canto 3, the killing of demon Hiranyaksha and with Varaha. So this was a long discussion we have been having, like where the Varaha is having fight with Hiranyaksha. So the fight was described very elaborately, almost last 63 verses. It was explained, and finally Hiranyaksha was killed by Varaha. With a big slap, he died. Now, when this fight was happening, the demigods were in between. When Hiranyaksha, during the long fight, first Hiranyaksha tried to attack with different weapons like mace, trident, and then later he did some mystic powers, some tricks, and he tried to create some disturbance. So he wanted to, whatever way possible, use all his strength and power, and he wanted to defeat Varaha. And during this war, the demigods were watching, right? And they were a bit worried. Is Varaha is going to lose the win in the war? Is Hiranyaksha is going to win? So that was their feeling. But in generally, all the demigods are devotees of the Lord. But they are not pure devotees. There is a mixed devotion. Since they are all in this material world, they will be having some effect of these modes, right? So that is where sometimes suddenly they think that, oh, is he going to lose the battle? But because those who surrender to Krishna, those who have full faith, those who are in full devotion, they know that Varaha will be going to win, because that is, they have faith on the Lord. But sometimes because of mixed devotion, we may get, the demigods also get similar kind of feeling. This is because of, one of the reasons could be the modes, material modes were acting on this every living entity. So in this purport, if you say mainly the demigods are after the war, once the Hiranyaksha was died, then the demigods were glorifying the Lord, Supreme Lord. So the today's prayer verse is specific to the prayers offered by demigods to the Lord, so Varaha. So they are glorifying with all, you are the beneficiary of all the sacrifices. And the three modes are acting on every living entity in this material world, but you are above this material mode. So that way they are glorifying. So if you see, the first we'll try to briefly refresh our understanding on the three modes of material nature, how it works. Right? So the three modes we see, like there's a mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. Sattva guna, Raja guna, and Tamo guna. So generally, when this material world is created, it's these three modes are packaged in the material world. So it's when any living entity comes into this material world, as soon as it comes into this material world, these three modes will be acting on them. Like in the pure devotional form, when you are in the spiritual world, your mind is fully focused on Krishna service, Vishnu service. So you will not have any kind of sense enjoyment or anything. As soon as you turn away from Krishna, the by default option, the Maya will capture you and put you into the material world. But when you come into the material world, you have to forget Krishna, then only you can enjoy. If your mind you are thinking about Krishna, because finally you came to this material world to have you to lord it over material nature, to have your sense enjoyment, right? So these modes will make you to forget Krishna. These three material modes constantly acting on you, and that will make you to forget Krishna. So if you see the material world, there are 4 planetary systems. So the middle one is Earth, and the top planets are heavenly planets, and the bottom one are hellish planets. So the most of the people in the material world, on the Earth planet, will have a mode of passion, because they came here to enjoy the world. So they should have a passion to enjoy this world. And when you go up, like the topmost planet is Satyaloka, the Brahmaloka. So that is where all the sages and everyone will be in their goodness. That is the highest form of goodness. It's not pure goodness, it's a goodness. And still it's a material. And so as you go from Earth to that Brahmaloka, so as you go up in the different planets, the mode of goodness will gradually increase. Like if those who are in the heavenly planet Indraloka, you will have less. They'll be in mode of goodness as well as passion, but when you compare with the Brahmaloka, the mode of goodness which they have is very less compared to the Brahmaloka. So it's a gradually, when you grow up, as you go to the higher planet, the mode of goodness will gradually increase. Finally, when you go to the Brahmaloka, that is the complete, the maximum goodness you will exhibit. Similarly, when you go down hellish planets, so it will gradually, the nature of the hellish nature, the ignorance will gradually increase as you go down to the Earth planet to the hellish planet Patala Loka. The ignorance nature will gradually increase. So this is how the complete material world is structured, packed with all 3 modes of material nature. If you see in Bhagavad Gita as it is book, there is a picture in one of the chapters where the Maya Devi is having 3 ropes and it's tied with different living entities. And they will be, the Maya will be, with 3 ropes, they are controlling the living entities. That clearly shows how the material modes are acting on us. So we are like puppets in the hands of Maya, where she will be controlling us through these 3 modes of material nature. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the chapter 7, it says very clearly about this material modes. Devi Yesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duritaya Mam Eva Prapajante Maya Etam Tarentite. Devi Yesha Gunamaya. These divine qualities are from me. So these modes, materially, this is the material energy coming from Krishna. And Mama Maya Duritaya, it is very difficult to cross over. And Mam Eva Prapajante. Those who surrender unto me, they can cross over these 3 modes of material nature. So this is what the brief clear indication of what is material mode. Like these 3 material modes are Krishna's energy. These are divine energies, but in the material world. These are acting so that people will forget Krishna and they will keep on entangled in this material world. But those who surrender unto Krishna, Krishna will provide you the knowledge using which you can overcome these 3 material modes. So another meaning of guna is rope, right? So the rope means the modes will tie up with all your body, like the living entity, so that you will not be freely moving. Like if you tie up with a rope, if the person is tied up with a rope, then what will happen? He will not move his hands, he will not move his legs freely. He cannot do whatever he wanted. He is fully conditioned. Same way, this guna, the 3 gunas, the mode of goodness, mode of passion and mode of ignorance, will make you conditioned in this world. So you will not be able to move out of this material world. So you will be entangled, you will be conditioned. So what is the way to get? One option is, those who is outside of, who is not tied up with the rope, he can come and take out your knots and he can free you from the rope, right? So same thing. So who will be that person? That person can be Supreme Lord Krishna or his bona fide representative, our spiritual master. So the spiritual master will help you to come out of these 3 material modes. He will give the instructions by following which you can overcome this material world, the three modes of material nature. So let's see some of the brief qualities of the people who possess these qualities, who exhibit these material modes, how they behave. So just briefly we'll touch on these three modes. So the person in the mode of goodness, how he behaves. So the person in the mode of goodness, he will have proper knowledge. Knowledge in terms of what is right, what is wrong, what are the do's and what are the don'ts in our day-to-day life. So he will have all this understanding. Not only having the understanding, he will follow those injunctions mentioned in the scriptures. And so he will, that way, he will be in the mode of goodness. So for example, in our scriptures, Prabhupada mentioned many times, Brahma Muhurtam is the very auspicious for cultivating the spiritual knowledge. Spiritual, to progress in our spiritual path, Brahma Muhurta is very significant, important. So he suggests to get up in the morning, attend Mangalarti, do sadhana, everything, and finish everything, all your sadhana in the Brahma Muhurta time, before sunset. So same, was mentioned in the Vedic. So those who are in the mode of goodness, they try to follow such examples, like such instructions, and they try to elevate it into the goodness stage. But is all good with this mode? If you are exhibiting goodness, is everything happy here? Can he overcome this material modes? If a person is in the mode of goodness, can we assume that he will be coming out of in the next birth, he will be out of this material world? No. This mode of goodness also will bind you to the material world. How? So, for example, you are in the material goodness, person you are having the mode of goodness. What you will do, you will have a full knowledge. Let's say scientists and philosophers, they will have full of knowledge. What they try to do with their knowledge, they try to improve the condition of the material world. Right? So as they keep on doing it, what will happen? They will get pride. Okay, I have this knowledge. Because of this knowledge, I am helping these many people. And I am trying to improve the living conditions of so many people. So that pride and will create that. Then they are doing this, the pride will come in there. That pride will cause you to further bondage into the material world. Though it's a goodness, but it's not all good with this goodness. So you will have, again, it will cause bondage to the material world. When you feel pride, again you work to get more and more pride you will do. So when you keep on doing this activities in mode of goodness, that will cause again bondage to material world. So even though you are in mode of goodness, it's a chance that you will be keep on taking birth and death. It will not take you to back to Godhead. But this is the starting point to go advance in the spiritual path. You have to come to the mode of goodness state first, before you reaching back to the Shuddha Sattva state, where you will be going back to the Godhead. So this material mode of goodness is the starting point for your spiritual journey. And before coming to the passion, we'll first discuss on the ignorance. The mode of ignorance is quite opposite to the mode of goodness. Where in the mode of goodness state, you will have all the knowledge. In ignorance state, you don't have any knowledge. You don't follow any scriptural injunctions, anything. So whatever comes into your mind, you will do it. Whether it is good or bad, you don't realize. So that is the status of mode of ignorance. So in between these two, we have a mode of passion. So the people who are in the mode of passion, they will exhibit, like they will be looking for honor and prestige in the society. They try to look for the more sense gratification. So these are some of the qualities of people who are in the mode of passion. Now, when the material world is created, and these three modes are created as well. So another use of these three material modes is, the material world is having full of different varieties. These varieties also coming because of these three modes. How? Example is, we have 8.4 million species. Whenever living entity coming into this world, he can take any of the bodies from 8.4 million species. So how the person will take body? In the current birth, you are exhibiting some gunas, the goodness, passion and ignorance, right? You are in the material world, you are exhibiting. These three modes will drive you to your next birth. So if you are a person in the mode of passion, who is very swimmer, he wanted to swim all the time, he is very fond of swimming. So then in the next birth, he will get a chance when aquatic, let's say. So you will you will take birth as aquatic in the water, in the ocean. So to fulfill the needs of different qualities coming due to these three material modes, you will have a different bodies available. So this 8.4 million species of the created to address this the qualities gunas. So when you exhibit these gunas, you will have a next body. So to accommodate the next body, these 8.4 million species are available. Not only that, in the varnas are created. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned, Chatur Varna Maya system, Guna Karma, Vibhakti. All these varnas are created based on the gunas. Because varna, what is that? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. These are the four varnas created. But in the current society, people are taking based on their birth. But what Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, based on gunas. What gunas? So when these modes are working, you will be behaving in a different way. If a person is working on acting goodness, you will exhibit some qualities. And if you are working in passion, you will exhibit some different. So based on your gunas, your qualities, you will take different varnas. And with that, that will help you to progress in your spiritual path. So if you are in a mode of passion, but if you are doing like a Brahmanical, if you try to follow the Brahmanical duties, you will not be able to do. Your nature is passionate. So you need to choose the varna like such that it will as per your nature and you will be able to get to the goodness easily. So these are the various variegatedness in the material world is created with the help of to support this three modes of material nature. And as mentioned, this material mode, it's very difficult to overcome. So now the next thing is, how can we come out of this material modes? It's like transcending these modes. So one is like when you do spiritual, when you progress in your bhakti, when you progress in your devotional service, when you leave the body, you will be coming out of this material world. But do we need to wait until we leave this body? No. When you are in the current body also, you can transcend these material modes. So there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita chapter 14 that I will read out. Gunan etan atityatrin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukhair vimukto mrutam asnute. So if you see the janma mrityu jara dukkha vimukto mrutam asnute. So when you come out of this transcendental mode, when you transcend this material modes, so you will be free from janma, mrityu, jara, dukkha. So all these things you will be coming out of these miseries. So we know that one of the basic miseries of the problems in this material world is janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. So when you transcend these material modes, you will be free from this. But the transcending the modes can happen when you are in the current body. You don't need to leave the body. How? When you follow your path of devotional, you do sadhana, you bhakti, you lose all the taste on other material things. You will be continuously enjoying all your transcendental service which you are doing into the Supreme Lord. So you do chanting, you do book distribution, you do deity service. All these devotional service will help you to overcome this material modes. And when you do these services, you will get pleasure. With that pleasure, you will forget all these miseries. Though you encounter these miseries, but it will not impact you. So you will be having the transcendental pleasure which you are getting through your services will supersede these material miseries. So that's why even though you are in the current body, you can transcend these modes with your devotional, and finally you will be coming out of these material miseries. So, what are the symptoms of the person who transcend these material modes? Right? So, the person who is beyond these material modes, what qualities he exhibit. Like he doesn't look for any pride, honor in the society. And the person in the material world, the generally who is exhibiting this material modes, they will look for more sense enjoyment, more honor, pride, right, prestige in the society. But this person who transcended these material modes, he doesn't look for any material pride or honor. He will do everything for the pleasure of God, and he doesn't look for any his own benefit. And similarly, he will try to bring everyone into the Krishna consciousness, the devotion. So he doesn't just ignore everyone. He will not focus on his own sadhana. He will try to all the people. He doesn't make anyone enemy. He will take everyone into the consideration. He will try to help everyone to progress in the path of devotion. And that he also takes whatever. He doesn't do all the activity. He does the activities which are suitable for progressing in the Krishna conscious way. Whichever is helpful to devotion, only those activities he will perform. These are some of the symptoms we can see, by seeing which we can see if the person is transcending the modes or still in the material mode. So the things are, he doesn't look for pride and honor. He will help everyone to become a Krishna devotee, and he will take only activities which are suitable for progressing in Krishna consciousness. Now this is all material modes in which we are currently in this material world we are living, and these modes are acting. But now in the purport and the translation, the demigods are praising, you are beyond this, because whenever the Lord takes avatara in this material world, like the Varaha, here Narsingadev, everyone, what is his, since he is into this material world, are these three modes acting on him as well? That's what he's saying. No, these three modes will not work on Supreme Lord, because he is beyond this, because he is all this material energy, this is the material energy of Krishna, right? So it will not act on him. These things, he is beyond this material modes. These three modes are not acting on Krishna, the incarnation of Krishna, like the Varaha, Narsingadev, Rama, Krishna, whoever descends, whichever avatara is coming onto the material world, all the avataras are not impacted by these three modes. Only the jivas like us will have an impact on these material modes. So that's why in the purport, it was in the translation also, it was mentioned that the boar is not, we cannot understand, like in a normal material world we see pig and the boar, right? You cannot compare that boar with a Varaha. Varaha is a transcendental. His body is transcendental body. So Sachitananda Vigraha, not the mode of, it doesn't have any impact due to material modes. So this is the one part of this verse. The next part of this verse is talking about the sacrifices. So because this also help you, this understanding of the material modes and this sacrifice, two things will help you to overcome. When you understand these sacrifices, it will also help you to come out of these material modes. The sacrifice, we will discuss that later. And one more part I wanted to touch. See, in the devotion also, when we are doing we mentioned in the beginning, the demigods are the devotees, but still, when war is happening between the two, the demigods at one stage they were a bit confused whether Varaha is going to lose, right? That is coming because of we can understand it is because of the material modes. So what we can understand from this is, even though if you are in devotion, the material modes can act. How? We can take an example. So if you are in a pure mode of goodness, you will have a chant, because you are doing chanting. What you will do? You will nicely hear your chanting. You try to hear your chanting and you finish your rounds. But when you are in the passion, your motivation will be, okay, you will be doing, but you try to finish more rounds as soon as possible. Okay, I have to finish the rounds by so and so time, or I have to do not 16 rounds, I have to do 32 rounds. So your aim is to get the 32 count more quicker. You will be try to focus on the chanting quality, but at the same time, you will try to focus on counting the number of rounds, right? So that is in a mode of passion, mode of ignorance. Like you will be sleeping while chanting. That is one of the, so right, sometimes you will be it's not intentionally you are doing, but you might be tired. You did some other, you are you are awake in the whole night. Something, your physical constraint, right? So you will be chanting, but you are sleeping. That is reflects you are in mode of. So in the devotion also, we can see the mode, different modes, how it will be working. So same way the Brahma, when demigods are watching the fight, so suddenly they, as the time is finishing, they are trying to wind up the war so that they can Varaha can defeat Hiranyaksha. But at the same time, since the time is finishing, you are in rush. So your mind is thinking that, okay, if we lose, what will happen? All those thoughts are coming. So this is kind of a mode of passion or ignorance, we can see that. So now coming back to the sacrifices. So in Bhagavad Gita, it was mentioned, right, in one of the third chapter. So all the living entities, we need food grains, right? So food grains, when we get food grains when we do farming and agriculture. So when we do that, to get the grains, what is required? To get the grains, we need rain. And the rain is coming through when we perform sacrifice. And these sacrifices are our prescribed duties. So why? Because we have to eat, and we have to eat the food, we need to grains. To get the grains, we need to perform sacrifice. To perform the sacrifice, this is one of our prescribed duty. So the beneficiary of this sacrifice is Vishnu, the Krishna. But apart from that, the Krishna, what will the Vishnu will do? He will employ different demigods like Indra, Varuna, Vayu. All these demigods are there to assist the Vishnu to take care of these things. If you see, like in our Govardhan Leela, Nanda Maharaj was explaining that why Krishna was asking why we have to do Govardhan Puja. Because Indra is giving the rain. That's why we need to perform the puja to Indra. So same way, there are many scriptural injunctions where it will mention if you perform Varuna Dev or Indra Dev, you will get rain. If you perform Chandra Dev, you will get something. So like to get any material benefit, what sacrifice, what yajna you have to do, these injunctions are mentioned in scriptures. So when you follow these injunctions in the scriptures, so you will get the required benefits. But if we understand clearly, who is the ultimate beneficiary of these all sacrifices? It's the Vishnu. So when we do Vishnu worship, automatically you are satisfying all these demigods. That is a similar logic Krishna utilized to convince Nanda Maharaj during the Govardhan Leela, why we have to worship. So when we worship, suppose if we all know the famous example in Bhagavad Gita, everyone will know. Like if you want to water the tree, you don't need to put the water on every leaf and every plant, right? So you put the water in the root. Similarly, when you perform worship Vishnu, the Krishna, automatically all the demigods will be pleased and you will be getting the required benefit. Now, and like if you see the Mahabharata, one of the sacrifices Yudhishthira did was Rajasuya Yaga, right? It was so, like generally, to perform these kind of sacrifices, it's very costly, cost effective. It's a very much costly affair, right? So, if you see the Rajasuya Yajna performed by Yudhishthira, he was doing the Rajasuya Yajna every day. He's feeding 10,000 Brahmanas in gold plates. So you can imagine, this is one expenditure you can. Similarly, there will be many other things in the Rajasuya Yajna, like the Yajna, when you perform any such Yajna sacrifice, you need ghee, you need many other grains. So many things required. So it's a more costly thing. That's where in the Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended Sankirtan Yajna. So that is the easy and everybody can follow. The chant Sankirtan Yajna means complete glorification of the Lord. So when we chant Hare Krishna, that's it, that will become a glorification of Vishnu. That is also a sacrifice yajna. So that will please Lord. So that is the easy method. You don't need to go with all the big yajnas, everything. That even if you do, there are not enough Brahmanas who can recite the mantras, how they have to recite. So we don't have the resources. So this Sankirtan yajna is the easy and prescribed method for this Kali Yuga. And there is one nice description of the sacrifice from Akrura pastimes. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, we have the 48th chapter. There is a nice verse in the translation. Just I read out the purport. There are 5 daily sacrifices enjoyed for a householder. That is 1. Sacrifice to Brahmana by studying Vedas. Sacrifice to forefathers by making offerings to them. Sacrifice to creatures by putting aside a portion of one's meals. Sacrifice to human being by extending hospitality. And sacrifice to demigods performing 5 sacrifices and so on. So these are the 5 sacrifices which are prescribed, which are mentioned by Akrura. This is every householder has to perform. But this prayer was offered by Akrura when Krishna visited Akrura's house. So what he was saying? You are the personification of the deities who preside over 5 sacrifices of a householder. So who is the final presiding deity of these all sacrifices? Krishna. So when Krishna was saying that, so when you worship Krishna indirectly, you are fulfilling all the daily sacrifices prescribed by Shastra. So that is how, but just it is a knowledge purpose. These are the 5 sacrifices everyone has to do. But in the current generation, we may not have time to do all these things due to various considerations. But if we worship Krishna, he is the presiding deity of all these 5 sacrifices mentioned. Right? That's it. So you will get the same benefit. So you don't need to worry about performing all the, if possible you can do, but the ultimate beneficiary is Krishna. And if you worship Krishna, you will get all the benefits of these sacrifices. And there is another verse also, Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned. People will mention different yajnas and sacrifices, right? Yanti deva vrata deva, pitrun yanti, pitru vrata, bhutani yanti bhutejya, yanti mad yajnopimam, right? This is mentioned in chapter 9. Yanti deva vrata deva. Those who wanted to, deva means demigods, they will worship the demigods. Pitrun yanti pitru vrata. Those who wanted to go to the Pitru Loka, they will worship Pitra. And Bhutani yanti bhuteja. Those who wanted to connect with the Bhuta, Peta, they will worship those Bhutas. And yanti mad yajnopimam. Those who wanted to come to me, they will worship me. That is what Krishna is saying. Though people worship all this based on the different level of maturity they have, they will choose either demigods, Pitru Loka, Pitru, and then Bhutas. But those who are very intelligent, they will be worshipping Krishna. So what we can summarize, in general, people's sacrifices can be classified into 2 broad categories. One, who is a devotee, who is in Krishna consciousness, who will be doing all the activities for the pleasure of Krishna. And other activities, those who perform for the benefit of the sense gratification, for their own benefit, for their own pleasure, they will do. So then broadly we can summarize these are the 2 different categories. Now we'll try to connect the modes and sacrifice. Right? We try to see how the relation is there. If you are in mode of goodness, then you will be performing, you understand, you will have the knowledge, right? When you have the knowledge, everything you perform, what is the knowledge? Purpose of all the sacrifice is pleasing Vishnu. When you know the knowledge, all your activities you will be doing to please Vishnu. But then if you are not in mode of goodness, if you are in passion and ignorance, so you will look for your own benefit, right? So your own sense gratification. What you will do? So whatever charity you do, whatever service you do, you look for your own benefit, your own gratification. So this is how we can understand. So but Krishna is beyond these all material modes, and ultimate beneficiary of this all sacrifices are Krishna or Vishnu. So that is how the demigods are glorifying. So here I will end today's discussion. Any comments? Yes, Prabhu. Mm-hmm.
Purified life is meant to please the Lord, and all sacrifices performed in purified life are called Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
We will actually discuss about the various movements, especially
Mm-hmm.
how we are actually entrapped along 3 modes.
Yeah.
Now, I was actually just trying to understand
Mhm.
That's a big ask. I mean, obviously, especially considering myself, whatever I do, it's definitely not a pure life. So, I mean, and Prabhupada is saying that only that is Krishna consciousness. So, what happens when we're living into the forms? Obviously, not in pure life.
Yes, Prabhu. I was reading in some lectures. So, yeah, because we are in materially conditioned, whatever activities we do, we will not have a pure consciousness, right? So, but what he was suggesting, you keep doing it. Don't worry. You keep doing it. At one stage, you will be getting into the state, purified state, and you will be progress in your, like the whatever mentioned, right? The purified life called, all sacrifices performed in purified life are called Krishna consciousness. It's a sadhana, regular practice. So when you keep doing that, you will be getting the purified state. No, because it's not only that, because Krishna is Bhavagrahi Janardana. With what Bhava, what intention? When you are doing the service, what is your mood? As long as you have a mindset to please Lord, that is a Krishna consciousness. But if I do the service to show off, to say so that okay, I am doing this big service, that is not Krishna consciousness. Right? Krishna is Bhavagrahi Janardana. He will see your mood. It's not that we can't totally reject that, okay, since I am not purified state, it's not Krishna consciousness. That is not intention. So it's a gradual process. Initially we are not pure, but you will reach that state. But as you are doing in the conditioned state, what is your intention? What is your mood? So that will help you, that will decide Krishna to make the judgment. So if you are in a pleasing the Lord, it's a Krishna conscious. But if you are doing for the sense gratification to get pride and honor, it's a material thing. That's it. Yeah.
In the earlier lines, Prabhupada mentioned before, there are many other forms of the Lord, but none of them belong to the material qualities. He actually referred to Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter. Krishna says that, among various things he says, he is Vishnu, he is Marichi, he is Indra, he is Kubera, he is Agni, he is Brihaspati, he is Kartikeya, he is Brihu, and so on and so forth, so many personalities he mentions. So, can we say that none of these forms have got material qualities?
So Prabhu, how we can understand this is, Krishna is the source of material creation, right? So everything is coming from him. Even our living entities are part and parcel of Krishna, right? But we have the condition. It's not, that is the qualities of Krishna where he is beyond. When he incarnates, like when he comes as a Narsimha, when he comes as a Varaha, it's an incarnation of the Lord. So those incarnations, those things will not exhibit. But all other things, they are source of Vishnu. It's not incarnation of, right? They are not incarnations. They are the source of, complete material world is created by Krishna. So Krishna is the source of all those things. That's my understanding. Mm-hmm. See, that's what, because what I can do, some of the things are the avatars, like when you empower, Shaktavesh avatar, like some of the times, he will empower certain living entity to perform that, right? So in that case, he will be the living entity. He is not the direct incarnation of Krishna. So I think that's what I'm trying to connect. So he will not be transcending the material modes. He will be empowering some jivas into that activity, right? So that way you can see is the forms of Vishnu. But he is a living entity. So when he is a living entity, he will be acting under the modes of material nature. But when Krishna descends directly, he will be beyond these material modes. That's how we can. Any comments? Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.